So we can go ahead and I will show you what ones I did. I did 2 recipes. I did a chicken stock because I always do a chicken stock, but I've always done Ina Garten's chicken stock recipe. And so for me, I was like, okay, I want to do hers and see how it differs. And the biggest difference is that hers, Samin's, does not have any salt in it. So for those of us that are salt restrictive, it is a great stock recipe, okay? So that will be included in the recipes. Let me turn on my camera. I'm gonna show you how the stock turned out. Just let me switch. Okay, so this is the stock, and it's been cooked. It cooks for about 6 to 7 hours. And with your favorite carrots, I actually added parsnips because I always do that with Ina Garten. So that's a little bit different, although parsnips are related to carrots, so it really doesn't make that much difference. The biggest difference, besides the salt, with Ina Garten's is there's about twice as many vegetables in the same amount of water. Both call for 7 quarts of water. So it's just a little bit smoother, lighter chicken stock than Ina Garten's is pretty strong. But this is just a very mellow flavor, and I really liked that. So what I do is I usually skim it off. I'll show you. Skim off the fat and then label it into a jar. Let me turn my laptop so I know what I'm looking at. Okay. So what I would do, and it just goes down, this is the fat that's congealed on top, okay? So it's not a lot of fat, but you just scrape that off after it's cold. This is sat in the fridge for a couple days. And then I just take this out and throw it away. And the nice thing about this stock is that you can grow your own vegetables and then you know exactly what's going in it, or you can use organic vegetables or anything you like, organic chicken. She also, the other thing that Samin does is she takes the chicken stock and uses that for her beef stock as a base. So her beef stock is very rich because she starts out with a stock already, which I thought was interesting. Now mine's not this is not as congealed as I'm used to. You can see how runny it is. I think the more raw bones that you add, and I didn't have any raw bones, so I had just 2 chickens that had been cooked, so the full chickens. And the more raw bones you have, the more congealed the stock is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I just pour it in a container. And by the way, these Whole Food takeout containers, they last for years. And so I just throw them back in the dishwasher. They're dishwasher safe, and they go back in the freezer. So this looks like it's going to make about 4 quarts of stock. And then you leave room. I've left a good inch of room for it to expand when it freezes, because it always expands. And then you just put the lid on and you set it aside to freeze. So that's my first recipe, is the chicken stock. And I would encourage everybody to try it. There's nothing better. I mean, after that, boxed stock doesn't even hold a candle to the flavor of homemade stock. Okay, then the second one I did was the granola. And I've never made granola before, except, well, I did back when I was a teenager, back in the hippie days, I guess. This granola, she says that she's never liked granola until she tried this recipe from a friend, and that's what's in the recipe book, is her friend's recipe. And what it contains is a cup of sunflower seeds, a cup of pumpkin seeds, and 1.5 cups of halved pecans, pecan halves. And then you stir in dried tart cherries afterwards. But then there's oatmeal, and then there's the coconut chips, which is different than shredded coconut. It's unsweetened coconut chips that you get in the same area in HEB at the produce department as all of this, okay? So it's a really good way to shop for this cereal. And then she uses the whole maple syrup and a little bit of brown sugar. And then you toast it for 50 minutes, stirring it every 10 minutes until it gets this crispy brown look to it. And then after it's cooled down, she stirs in a cup of dried cherries. And again, my go-to is Ina Garten's recipe. And the differences are, let me just show you. Ina's is right here. And if you can see, she has honey, which is more sugar. She also has apricots, and this was an option. She has cherries, just like this one. But then she has dried figs, cranberries, and then she's done 1 cup of unsalted cashews. Where this has sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, which I think are smaller, a little bit easier to eat as a cereal. So I like this recipe. Mm-hmm. And we enjoyed it. We did it over yogurt last night for kind of a treat. So then the cherries would get mixed up and then put in an airtight container and keep it in there. And it says it would last for a month. But at my house, it probably wouldn't last that long. So anyway, that's my recipe.